Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome back to another Offstreet webinar. It's good to see some people here. Now, while everyone is still trickling in and joining here, feel free to drop in the chat where you're tuning in from today. Looks like there's some familiar faces dropping in the chat, which is awesome. So, for those of you that are new, my name is Kyle, and I'm tuning in from the Offstreet HQ today, here in Regina, Saskatchewan. And just as a classic weather update, you guys, it is very windy here. So, I don't know, do it that way you will. But if you have any questions coming up during the session, please drop them in the chat or in the Q&A function. We highly encourage it. We want this to be a conversation. So any thoughts, comments, or just things you want to ask, feel free to drop those down there. Now, today we will be having a conversation about contractor parking. We all know it and probably hate it, or we love it. I don't know. You let us know. But I do want to know why. So, in order to have these conversations, of course, we want to hear your thoughts and comments in the chat, but we will also have a couple of special guests here to get into the nitty-gritty about contractor parking on campus. So, without further ado, I might as well introduce our special guests here. First up, I am super excited to introduce someone who knows a thing or two about the wild world of contractor parking, Mr. Jacob Kapala. He joins us from the University of Washington, Seattle, and where he's a part of the parking and transportation services team, helping to keep campus parking running smoothly. Jacob's been right in the thick of it, from juggling contractor access to dealing with the creative parking decisions that show up on campus from time to time. And he's here to share what the University of Washington Seattle team has been doing in order to bring order to contractor chaos. So thank you so much for being here, Jacob. I see you've got some matching attire on, which is awesome to see. And our next guest needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyways. Hayden is one of the Offstreet's all-star account managers, and he's the kind of person that every client wants in their corner. He is a total pro when it comes to solving parking problems without even breaking a sweat. Now, Hayden's all about building real relationships and making sure our partners get the most out of Offstreet. And in a fun twist of timing, he's actually joining us live from the University of Washington campus, along with Jacob. He is hanging out with the team over there as we speak. So thank you so much for joining us, Hayden, as well. So I haven't been in this industry very long, but over the past year of talking to university, it's become apparent that almost every school agrees that their contractor parking process leaves much to be desired, as I'm sure we can see in the poll results here. So we know each of you has unique campus operations and that contractors can be highly nuanced group, right? Not every campus is the same, and not every contractor company or setup is the same as well. But we're hoping to start a conversation around building a better process and how Offstreet can support you in doing that. So that's what today is about. Now, I'm going to start my first question here with Hayden. Hayden, you're speaking with parking teams on the operators and higher ed side of things all the time. What have you been hearing?
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. And thanks, Jacob, for joining us. Just like Kyle mentioned, today is extra special. I'm tuning in live from the UW campus. Been touring campuses all week in Washington and finally finishing off my tour here and with a bang. So thanks for having me. Um, I've been hearing a lot of different consistent themes from both operator clients, higher ed parking teams when it comes to contractor parking. Some of the biggest challenges I hear with contractor parking is they often don't know who is coming on what days. The project managers often end up with a stack of paper permits they have to distribute. They have subcontractors, don't know what day they're coming. They also might have to park in random areas or fenced off zones, and those spots aren't always tied in LPR. They come and go unpredictably. And yeah, there's lots of different reasons. Contractor parking is hard to manage. And just as in most cases, parking is not what contractors are focused on. And frankly, we don't want them to think how much and where they're supposed to park. Often these projects already take a long time to be completed, so we want these contractors to be in the right place as quick as possible. What parking teams really want is visibility and control. And contractors want clear instructions and worry-free parking experience. With Offstreet, we can solve that, gets rid of those paper permits, gives us a clear picture of how many vehicles are on campus, and it helps our enforcers be more accurate. Plus, it also lets those contractors manage their own permits, which takes a big load off of those project managers. And contractor parking, it can look different on every campus. However, the same issues seem to come up across the board.
Right, right. Yeah, there's a lot of things at play there. Jacob, next question is for you. What did I know you're using Offstreet right now for contractor parking, but what did it look like before? I'd love to kind of hear your side of things when it comes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Contractor parking was an arduous process at the end of every month, to say the least. For some context, we have project managers request contractor parking monthly for each project. Keeping requests monthly helps us manage like the dozens of concurrent construction projects that require parking that we have across campus. So to accommodate the niche needs of contractors, we've in the past had to manually print parking permits. And due to a variety of issues with things like Luke machines and T2, there was just no way to make a comfortable and easy method of obtaining parking permits per use for contractors who were showing up incredibly early in the morning. Our contractors then would have to pay upfront for a large stack of monthly permits, getting charged for every single day within a month that a person could be coming to park, regardless of whether or not they actually showed up that day. I would then have to print these stacks of permits myself and leave them in our gatehouses for project managers to come and pick up. This required a specialized printer in our office and also required us to order stacks of blank permits from our communications department, which wasn't cheap. And then this also meant that if a contractor realized there was either like an error in the amount they requested or the lot they requested, which happened a lot because we have a lot E18 and a lot N18 and things like that. So if they just got the letter wrong, the entire stack of permits that I printed out for them had to be voided and remade entirely.
Yeah, lots going on there. I think a lot of those common or a lot of those challenges you kind of mentioned there are probably common, but also some of them a little bit unique, which, as I touched on before, it's not the same challenges on every campus. But I'm going to pose another poll question to the audience here. So we want to know, what is the biggest challenge on your campus when it comes to contractor parking? Is it permit misuse or unauthorized parking? Is it manual registration and approvals? Is there no visibility for enforcement? You see all the options there. Or if none of those options fit your answer, feel free to drop it in the chat and let us know. Thank you. Now, while you guys are doing that, I'll kind of hop onto my next question here for Hayden. Hayden, from your perspective, what did implementation look like with Jacob's team? And there any things that kind of stood out that helped or, make things go really smoothly?
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. So yeah, when we onboard any new campus to Offstreet, we really try to start and focus on a couple of the big issues they're having and kind of quick wins to just get the software on their campus, get them using it, and try it out, and hopefully see some success pretty early on. And the first thing Jacob's team noted was contractor parking. I also have to give a quick shout out to Jacob and his team because they learned the system so quickly. Within a couple weeks, they really took off and were using Offstreet for many different use cases. The first thing we set up was that contractor parking for a project that was happening in a couple weeks from when we started. There's always challenges implementing a new software. It's a new way of doing things. Their team, we went in, we looked at different ways we could set it up, finding something that improved their internal operations and the experience for the parkers. They jumped on board, started using it right away, which I really think is something special in working with a team that are just willing to jump in, try it, and when it goes successful, just go full steam ahead. They really did not hesitate. Their team started using Offstreet at the end of January, and today they have over 900 tenants set up. Many of those are for contractor parking. Their team has contractor parking set up for each project specifically, like Jacob mentioned. The parking links for contractors to register are specific to those dates of projects. The project manager distributes the link, and their contractors are responsible for registering their plates. And their internal teams, they have clear reporting for billing for each project, more accurate data on the amount of parking that was used throughout a project, more accurate enforcement. And yeah, we were able to get it going within 2 weeks of onboarding.
How exciting, how quick. Okay, that's yeah, a great kind of story to hear. And I think as you kind of touched on, being super quick is, not always the case, but it's super awesome to hear. Jacob, kind of going into more of the results side of things, you had this issue with contractor parking. You kind of implemented Offstreet to see what we can do. And now, can you tell me what part of the solution now has been the most valuable for your team? And were there any kind of surprises that came across or any unexpected wins?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most impactful part of the off-street implementation is the time and money saved. I cannot emphasize enough how difficult it was for me to be printing hundreds of permits manually each month. These permits were also not compatible with LPR, so our enforcement officers would need to get out and check for physical permits before we had off-street. So every time like LPR would hit a car, they would have to get out, make sure it's not a contractor who has a physical permit in their dash, and then get back in the car. The time and cost saved by moving to a completely digital solution have been huge, not only for our department, but for the contractors themselves. Uh, it was also just a huge incentive to tell our project managers, like, hey, if you like allow us to test off street with you, you will only start getting charged per use. Just because the way we had to do it previously, they would buy every single day in bulk for every employee. And so telling project managers like, hey, you'll probably cut your parking costs down by like half. And then everybody was on board to just try it. And so I think that really helped with like going full steam ahead with everybody involved. But an unexpected win ended up coming in the form of merging locations for some of our projects. With our physical permits, we were only able to assign a single parking lot to each permit. And then for some of our contractors, they would need to change what parking lot they were using on a daily basis, depending on where they were needed for the project. So essentially, our project managers would end up purchasing two separate stacks of physical permits to accommodate that need. Because contractors also might not be familiar with campus, they would often receive citations for having the wrong permit displayed. Like they were supposed to go to W28 and then they have a W24 permit because they're right next to each other, but they just don't know. They don't have that knowledge. This bogged down our citation office as well as communications with project managers. With Offstreet, though, we are able to attach the physical permits or the digital permits that we have for them to multiple location IDs. So when we had a contractor requesting two lots, now they can just merge those lots into the same request. And then we can attach both lots to a single parking link that we send out to them. This has reduced the amount of contractor parking requests that I have to process and receive. And some contractors have been able to merge their separate requests under one, as I mentioned.
Yeah, lots of kind of fun wins there. I think it's interesting to hear that you said like a win was for the contractors themselves, because I know parking teams, they're looking for solutions themselves for their team, but to hear that it's really helping the contractors as well with their own kind of ROI is obviously a win for both the parking teams and for the contractors. So thanks for sharing that. Now, going Hayden, kind of your direction here when it comes to results. What has stood out to you about these successes and any lessons on implementation that you can share?
Yeah, definitely, Kyle. Yeah, and with anything, there's always challenges with change. It can be anything from just a small change to signage to a large change like changing software. Like
Mhm.
Jacob mentioned, that you have to figure out a way that the contractor, the end user, it's going to want to use the new software and new permit or whatever, because it's just easy to stick with what you're doing. So it's a new way of doing something that people have to adapt to. A lot of different people are not going to embrace it. And with Offstreet, we're really able to customize what the contractor parking can be used or look like with different registration settings, additional information fields. Like Jacob mentioned, they connect their codes from their CRM. We can really work with your current process and adapt it to our system. At the end of the day, you're going to still be changing things, but it shouldn't be as large of a change to your operations. I think UW Saddle is a great example of a campus that experienced success because of their willingness to just try something new to improve it. Jacob's no longer in there printing off tickets for hours or permits for hours. And yeah, their contractor parking has been going pretty smoothly this entire time. They're set up by project with their CRMs, like I mentioned. We've seen other campuses that have passes that aren't project specific, or we have coded contractor parking where the code is linked to a specific project. There's really a different solution depending on what your current process is on campus. And yeah, we're really believe that we can work with you to figure out something that's going to work for both your internal team, but also make a better experience for those end parkers.
Awesome. Okay, now before we kind of get into the Q&A here, where everyone can ask us questions, which I'm encouraging you right now to do so in the Q&A. I am first going to ask you all in the audience one last poll question here. We are curious, are you actively looking to improve or change right now how you are currently managing your contractor parking? Maybe that's a small change, maybe that's even just exploring the idea, or maybe it's, your very top priority. Let us know here with the poll. And now we will move on here to our Q&A. So if anyone has questions for Jacob about how anything from implementation to any of the issues that they faced on campus with contractor parking, or maybe you have questions for Hayden about what implementation looked like, or even just what he's seen on other campuses, feel free to do so. Drop those in the Q&A function. Or if you have questions about our high-vis vests, please feel free to ask us about those. But right now, not much coming in the Q&A, but I will have a question for you, either Jacob or Hayden. Curious, what has been, I mean, you touched on like your biggest unsuspected wins. What was your main goal, or your top priority when it came to kind of the exploring the idea of fixing your contractor parking? I'll say Jacob, maybe that one's for you.
I suppose I could touch on that. We've had a large initiative across campus to just try to get rid of every single physical permit that we have. That way we can eventually move to be completely digital. So I think that was the original inspiration because as far as physical permits go, contractor parking was probably our biggest pain point. Funny enough, before we ended up getting Offstreet set up and stuff, we had just hired like student employees to do most of the printing, just
Yeah.
because the process was becoming such a burden for me that I was like, okay, I just need somebody else to do this. So we ended up getting student employees to take care of that and print them out. But yeah, definitely just moving away from the physical ones, integrating everything into LPR. That way our enforcement team can just drive through the lot and not have to get out and check for these physical permits anymore. Was definitely probably the biggest driver of the change.
Yeah, totally. Get those kids to do it. It looks like Todd Smith has a question here, Jacob, for you as well. Do any of your contractors register their own vehicles, or are you doing it all by receiving the data from them?
Uh, Contractors do it all on their end. We just send out the link for them to sign up. So for the project managers, I provide them with a link and then a email template that has instructions that they can send out to their contractors. And then contractors enter their own license plate either ahead of time or as soon as they arrive in the morning, and they do it all themselves. So as soon as I send the link out, I'm hands off the project, and it is up to the project manager from that point.
Okay, awesome. Awesome answer there. Okay, now another question here. Who charges for contractor parking, and how do you deal with pushback from facilities?
Yeah. For the contractor parking, we end up, the UW department pays for it, or whatever grant or team is financing this project. The money for the contractor parking ends up coming from that. Then we charge it to them through the internal UW billing system. But yeah.
quick and easy. Kathy Bissett is wondering who requests the contractor permits, employees of the college, or are they the contractors? Is there a double check to ensure that the dates that are accurate?
Yeah, it is the UW employee project manager. So each construction project for us on campus has a UW employee who is kind of managing it and overseeing it. And then they are kind of our middleman contact. Sometimes for specific contractor parking requests, I am in touch with a contractor like head for them that kind of informs me like, hey, we actually need this quantity of like max registrations. It ended up maxing out or something, and we need to get it adjusted. And previously, obviously, I would have had to print more permits for them, but luckily with Offstreet, I can just kind of go into the settings and then up it.
It's just easy as that. Okay, now Alan is wondering, how do you handle a contractor company coming for a week, but they will come in different trucks and plates each day?
Yeah, that's the nice thing about Offstreet actually is that with the same link, they can actually just enter a different license plate every
Mhm.
single time they come. And we do actually have a note about that in our email template that we send out, just because we do know that some contractors, they might be like, remember my plate, and then come in their other car and then get a ticket that day. So we make sure to have a note there to let people know, like, if you are coming in multiple vehicles, make sure to just fill it out morning of. That way you can be like, I'm in this vehicle. This is my plate now.
Awesome. There you go, Alan. Now, someone is wondering, how do you prevent abuse or misuse of permits with contractors? Now, that could be tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the way we tackle that is through having a daily maximum limit. And that is set by the contractor. And they know, like, basically, we set this maximum so that if the link were to be shared or something beyond the actual group that's using it, usually the contractors come in the morning and then they hit the max limit. If that link were to be used by anybody else that entire day, it would just not let them fill it out and say the max limit has been reached.
Right. So then they would just get the citation then? Anyone
Yeah.
else?
For other like groups across campus that we've used off street to prevent abuse and stuff, there is options to add like little input sections that people will have to enter like a first name, last name, and then like department they're with to park. That's something we've done for our athletics team because they really want to make sure they're auditing who are using these links. So
Mhm.
we've definitely added like required fields that have to be filled in. For contractors, though, we like to make it as easy as possible. So we try to just keep it at enter your license plate, you're good.
Yeah, they're typically worried about just getting on the job site and getting done with it. Okay, Brianna says, and this might be more for you, Hayden, I'm not sure. Our campus has contractor marked stalls, and we currently issue paper passes for contractors. These passes are valid only in contractor specific stalls, not in regular student or employee parking. How would this work for our citation team to ticket contractors in student stalls, but not ticket if they are in contractor stalls?
Great question, Brianna. So what we would do in that case is we'd set up a different location and we'd work with your enforcement to have a specific zone so that those permits are zoned to the contractor stalls and not to the employee stalls. Which we can jump on a call and talk about that.
Absolutely. Another question here. Did you, and maybe this is probably toward Jacob, did you set up all contractors within tenants?
Yeah. So each separate construction project have we have is a different tenant. And we kind of just track that by having the project number in the tenant name and then like, a short description of what the project is. And so each different project is a tenant and we have every single month that they're doing contractor parking as a registration setting under that tenant. It makes it super easy for me also because once I onboard a construction project into a tenant, and make a registration setting for a month, I can just duplicate that month. So that's why construction parking now for projects that have already been entered into Off Street is really simple and it takes like 2 minutes.
Right. Okay. Ken is wondering, do you restrict your contractors to specific zones on campus?
I think for us, the only limit is the lot itself. Obviously, there are some stalls that they're not allowed to park in, but they generally just park in regular stalls that are within the parking lots.
Okay. Short and easy here. Brian is wondering, how do you handle when contractors turn around and contract the work out to a subcontractor? I saw someone in the chat also say subcontracting. I think it was Darla was
Yeah,
talking about contracting.
honestly, I don't really have much touch with that, considering that the UW projects here, they use subcontractors all the time. I'm assuming that the project manager just provides the same link, and that
Mhm.
might be involved with when they email me and they're like, "Hey, we're hitting the maximum limit now. Can you up the count?" So I think they just provide the link to the subcontractors, and then the subcontractors just use it as
Mhm.
well.
Okay. Now another question here. How do you handle contractors that like the old-fashioned paper permits and have more of a resistance to change?
Luckily, I'm not too involved in talking to the contractors themselves, and I think they probably are just getting pushed by their management because their management is saving a ton of money by not buying in bulk. So I maybe perhaps we're lucky, but the incentive of them going to like pay per use instead of just getting charged in bulk has been huge. And I think that's probably why we've gotten no fighting or like no contractors emailing us being grumpy about switching to it because I think the money saved has just been such a huge boon to the projects.
Right. Okay, Leslie is wondering, how do you keep, sorry, there's so many questions here, which is awesome. So thank you everyone for throwing those in the Q&A. Jacob, you're almost out of breath here. But Leslie is wondering, how do you keep track of who is on campus when, if they are self-registering? Um, do you have a sheet somewhere for emergency management? A sign-in sheet, I think that's what, yeah. Do you have a sign-in sheet somewhere for emergency management?
Not necessarily for emergency management, but when it comes to tracking when people are coming in and signing up and registering, the Offstreet reports have been incredibly helpful for that. They inform you of when a registration was made. And we have our registrations or like our parking links set up so that when they fill it out, we have a default time slot, which is just the entire day while permits are active on campus from like 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So we're able to see when they make the registration setting. And then it also tells us when their permit is active for on the reports when we print it out.
Okay. And now Alan's wondering, are you willing to share the template? I think you touched on your template earlier.
Yeah, I could, let me see if I could pull it up. It might take me a sec.
It could even be post-webinar. You don't need
Yeah,
to.
I would definitely, if you want to talk to Hayden and get in contact to us to see what kind of template we're sending out to people, I would definitely be willing to share that with everybody.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Alan, we'll note that down. John Stewart is wondering, how is this getting handled with the different subcontractors that will arrive at projects? Are they displaying something at a project trailer? So I think we maybe touched on that a little bit earlier, but if you have any answer for
Yeah.
that.
I mean, so everything is just handled with their license plate. Since it's completely digital, they can park in any regular stall. They don't need a marked vehicle of any kind. It basically just functions like any other digital permit we have on campus. So if a subcontractor has the link from the project manager, they're able to fill it out and then they will just have a parking permit for that
Mhm.
lot attached to their license plate when the LPR vehicles roll through.
Okay. Justin Santana, what is the largest number of vendors you have worked with? I have one vendor with over 300 plus contractors. Wow, must be a big job. That will not be identified until the start of the project. That does sound like a big job.
Yeah. So we've never had a project that's had 300 contractors. I think the biggest one we have is like 85 going concurrently. I will say though, we have used Offstreet for super large scale events like thousands of people. We had a admitted student day where we used Offstreet for every single family that was coming on campus because our events department here at UW decided to pay for everybody's parking, which was really nice, but also really expensive. But so this link was sent out to like tens of thousands of families, and they were able to fill it out successfully, and we didn't hear any problems with it. So Offstreet definitely does have like capabilities and is able to kind of successfully work for large scale groups.
Awesome. Great question, Justin. Kathy is wondering, is it possible to share Jacob's contact info as I may have some additional questions after reviewing the recording? Jacob, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, sure. Here, should I send my email in the chat or something? Would that work?
Sure, absolutely. And we can also connect you with people afterwards. But yeah, feel
Yeah,
free
that
to
might
drop
be a
that
better
info.
way. If you just want to go through Hayden, because Hayden set up conversations between us and other colleges across campus, and we've talked to them, or not across campus, but across the world. And we've talked to them about how they use Offstreet for like event parking for athletics events and stuff like that. So just, I would be super down to set up a meeting if you want to talk more about how we do it.
Awesome. We will make sure that happens. Okay. Sylvia is wondering, how would you deal with payments where a contractor requires their employees to pay instead of the company? Maybe that one is for Hayden.
Yeah, definitely. I can chat about that. So, um, cool thing is you can talk to your account manager, but we have launched off-street payments for a while now. So we can set up the same links that Jacob has been talking about where the contractor that's for a project or that the project manager can distribute to the contractors, but also input a payment field in the end. So yeah, chat with your account manager, but it's definitely something we can do now. We can add a payment field in if the end parker is going to be paying for the permit.
Great answer. Darla is wondering, do you break out parking in other areas as well? We have contractor service and vendor parking. Do you differentiate like that at all?
Uh, Honestly, we don't really differentiate between that. For vendors, usually vendors are paying for their own parking. So we don't currently have payments set up in Offstreet. That's something we're working on though, and we're really excited to get. So for people that are paying for their own parking, they just have to use the other payment systems available on campus to get a permit in the lot. But as far as Offstreet goes, because we do arranged parking and event parking through Offstreet too, ultimately we don't really differentiate between our kind of parking arrangements and contractor parking. They kind of show up the same on the back end. They just have different tenant names.
Awesome. Okay, Brian, I think this might be the last question here. Oh, one more about some payments. But Brian is wondering if the contractor isn't paying for the permits because they want the individual worker or the subcontractor to pay for the permits, how do you charge them? I think that's kind of uh, a question we maybe touched on earlier. What do you guys
Yeah,
think?
I think same thing. If you want the end parker to pay for it, definitely talk to us about getting off-street payments live, and yeah, we'll just input a payment field into the same portal that they use to register, and they'll charge at the end of the transaction.
Awesome. And then for the question you discussed with payments, how do you know what to bill back for usage? I think you guys were talking about billing earlier on. How do you do that for usage?
Yeah, I'll let Jacob take that one if you want to talk about bill back.
Absolutely. So the off-street reports, you can set it for pick every, like unique individual tenants to generate a report for, uh, and then choose like a registration setting. So basically, we just generate reports for each construction project, choosing that tenant because it has its project number, and then we choose a registration setting to also filter what the report generates for that exact month. So yeah, basically my tenant is the project name and then the registration settings are different months. So I'm able to pick the project, pick the month, and then generate a report. And it'll show every single registration they use. And that's how we charge it. That spreadsheet gets sent over to my accounting team, and they charge it. I don't really know what happens to it.
Once it's off, your hands are
Exactly.
clean.
I know our accounting team did work with Offstreet too to make sure that the reports they were getting were something that they were able to work with. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, that is all of the questions we have. I know there was a lot of them. And people, if you do have more, feel free to email them afterwards or send us a DM or whatever it is, or email me directly. Doesn't matter. We will make sure we answer them. But let's hear it in the chat again, once again, for our special guests out in Seattle, both Jacob and Hayden. Thank you so much for joining us today. If anyone would like to learn more about using Offstreet for contractor parking, or if you just want to talk to me about the weather, I do love talking about the weather. Feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call. My contact info is on the screen there. And if you do have questions, if you wanted to get in touch with Jacob or Hayden directly, we can facilitate that as well. Just let us know. Also, feel free to scan the QR code to take a fun quiz where you can see where your contractor parking operations stand. Are you running things the ancient way, like when they were drafting up blueprints for the pyramids? Or are you a parking prodigy ahead of your time whose grandkids are already excited for them? Scan that code to find out, and there may even be a cheeky comic on that page to read while you're in there. So, thank you so much to everyone for coming here and spending the morning with us, and have a great rest of your week, everybody. See you next time.